Alright. So Zach, this is your same motherboard as last time, right?
Yeah.
Different case.
Yeah, I'm
Same
actually.
RAM, 32 gig DDR5.
Yep.
Okay.
What's I'm excited to see what it looks like with not an AIO but a fan instead.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big one if you want to unbox it. That's the checking the processor through the window per the problem we've had more than
I
once
was
now.
gonna suggest saying that in the video as well.
Make sure you always check the processor and always keep your boxes till everything works. But people love to change these, and you can see through the little window which CPU it is and if it's what you paid for. Twice now we've received the wrong one. You can take that heat sink assembly off by popping these guys. So basically, you go like that, and it flips off. That way we can mount this without the rest. We got CPU, we got two 2 tera Evo Pluses.
Lots of storage.
Lots of SSD storage at that. And our good friend Z690P Wi-Fi. Also got a 3060.
Just a measly 3060.
Hmm.
Just a measly 3060.
I mean, it's no 3080, but you know, it's a good card. Rear IO shield so we don't forget about it. I think this is the one that I had that difference of opinion with Asus because that's an HDMI, but like opening but with a USB that goes in it, which is kind of funny.
We could do black or blue for the, I don't know what you call those.
You can do what?
Black or blue.
Well, but I bet one's AMD and I bet the other's Intel. I bet they're color coded on purpose so that you can't mess it up. That's how most of those things are done. To simplify the instructions, assuming they're even in color. Or maybe they just say the word black or blue. Yeah, this is not the same case, it's not the same build that we did last time. Same CPU, same mother, same RAM.
Oh, we get to use the blue ones. It says LGA 1700 for the blue.
So they've updated it to say 1700 now. I think the early ones were.
The 1200/115X.
Oop.
I guess the 115 is already.
115?
Yeah, 115X.
That doesn't sound, AMD doesn't go by stuff like that, it's like AM5 is what they call it, but I don't know if that's still indicative of the number of pins, but they simplify it to just AM4, AM5. And you can put all this back. Alright. Actually, will you hand me a glove?
Ooh, fancy.
Just one.
Yep, just, I don't wanna get oils on the processor and cause any trouble for myself.
And do those again.
Okay, that's good to go, so did you figure out which brackets we need for this guy?
Yeah, they're all in here.
Where's the instructions?
Also in the box. I will take that out. The one thing I did.
Alright. No! Oh yeah, that's way out of alignment, so that would be a big no. Yep, so you're right, blue.
10.
1700 needs to be in position 2. No, I don't have a pin yet. It's like we've done this many times before. If you want, you can cut this and pull that out. And then out of the back side, we've got a 3.5 bay that's got the screw bit if you want to go on and get that out. Ooh, this one's metal. Secufirm 2 is what it's branded as. Alright, so I've got all of these in. I would have thought it would be notched, but it isn't. Curious. Alright, so that works. Alright, all of our studs are in the right position. So the new blue are for the LGA 1700. Alright, so where's the bracket that goes between?
You put the black one in already.
So it's gonna be these in position 2. You can see it doesn't want to sit right, that's why they're so intentional in the instructions about how it should line up, because if you just drop it on there, it does not, it's gonna land in the right spot. Well, to be honest, I'm not really making it go into the right spot, so I'm off on the back side. That's annoying. Yep, these are off. They got turned. Yeah, they've got to come up with a better way not to. This is tedious and annoying. Put it on here. So I guess maybe you're better off setting it on there and then setting them in. Yeah, they all moved back to position 1 when I went to put it in. So, not exactly easy. Okay, now they're all in position 2 again. See if they'll stay that way this time. Alright, put all the blues back on the posts. Alright, and then the brackets. Okay, so they're the curved brackets. Okay, now we're on position 2, so that works. Alright, we're good there. So now there's supposed to be thumb screws with Phillips heads that lock this down. I think they're in that. It's notched. Those are not it. It's these guys. So yours was a Samsung Pro with the heatsink, that's why we relocated this, but on this one here and whichever of the two should be fine, I think. I'm just glad I can get all this bracketry on without having done anything with thermal paste yet. And we're back to that conundrum of it comes with thermal paste, but do we like what we use better?
Probably.
Now, nothing said anything about these funny little things,
Yeah, I've never seen those
so,
before.
yeah, neither have I, so what do they do? Yeah, we're in position 2, that went in. Not seeing anything talk specifically about those spacers. They're calling them NMICS1. I don't see anywhere where it calls for them. I mean, they're not in any picture on here, so, except the parts list, so where along the way would you use them is the real question here. Well, I can only assume if they don't tell us.
Yeah, we don't even.
Yeah, but why would they exist? Oh! I didn't read. That would have made putting it all together easier. It holds the posts where they belong.
Oh, well, do it now.
No, it doesn't. We can put them on there. In fact, we have to, because there's always the chance that it won't line up right. This is why you read the instructions. And see, I was making it out to be so much harder than it should be. But they don't show you putting the clips on. Yeah, fix the bolts using the clips. Yep. Alright, this time I'm just picking straight up. So the clip should be able to go on here. Of course. Let me see. One at a time. Thanks. It looks to be arbitrary which direction they go, but just try it. So outside in is how it shows. Yep, there's little notches for them and everything. Okay. Alright, so now that we've wasted time not reading the instructions and have done it 3 times. That one still doesn't sit right. I'm just not a fan of this. Can they not just make separate brackets for the different sizes? Because it keeps moving it. There we go. Fourth time's the charm. Hey, it's a lot easier than trying to hold them all from the bottom though. See, it might have affected the length. I don't know that it would be enough to matter, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I know. I'm kind of holding them out while I do it so that it stays in position 2. We'll hit with the screwdriver in a moment. Okay, I think I need the standoffs for the M2. They're still in here. It's those bags. You grab them. I'm just gonna leave out all of this.
I'm guessing only 2.
Yeah, if there's 2 in 1, I'll take the 2. Guess we did to kind of test fit, make sure this looks like it's gonna line up. Yep. Got a large screwdriver.
It was right there.
Yeah, I know. It is in the drawer. Go figure, things being where they belong. Alright. So we'll need a nut driver to tighten these down. Thank you, sir. I can never remember, but I think it's 3/16. Yep. Not gonna use the tool on it because it's usually a little too much. So you got the, yep. So let me go ahead and install the drives. Oh, except I did that one backwards. Remember they flipped this slot, it used to face the other way,
Mhm.
and I still feel like it's the other. We're all 2280 length.
What is that?
There's a third and two.
It's tiny, don't fit the,
No, it does. It's full length. It just doesn't have the room for the spreader, the heat spreader.
oh, it connects over here. If you look on this side, it looks like it comes this way.
Yeah, it connects this way,
Yeah.
just like this bottom one.
But that one goes this way, that's what you mean.
Yeah, so they reversed that
Yeah.
one, and I just can't ever remember that for some reason.
That's right, I've never looked at it from this way. It looks like it goes.
All right, and the second one too. All right, that one's good to go. I'm gonna wait on the heat spreader for them too, just to fire everything up, make sure everything's working, so that we know that's good to go. So that needs to go back in the box.
Do you care orientation wise?
Yeah. They're the same drive, they're both 2 Tera Evo pluses, so that's good to go. All right, so now set up with our case. Same fan and RGB distribution as yours. All right, I do need to go through and check all the standoffs. And yeah, this board is short like yours, so it doesn't use all of them. But as far as the ones it does, I'm still gonna check them. Just don't want any trouble with them coming loose. Do you have a question?
No.
They're all snug. I guess I'll check the 3 we're not gonna use just because.
Yeah, it's kind of really annoying
But they shortened the board though. Yeah, I don't really care for it, but they don't ask me about stuff like that at ASUS. So. No film to take off, I don't think. I don't think yours did either. Be a little careful with the Wi-Fi antennas and everything. Well, this has a display port there, so that must have been the AMD one I was thinking of. That had the other port, so that's a display port and HDMI, yeah. But this is a KF, right? So I don't think it has graphics. Yeah, it's a KF, so they won't work anyway. So we'll try to transplant the covers from the video card to signify that they're not operable.
Yeah, a lot of customers plug that into the motherboard and they're like, my display doesn't work.
Bag up all the extra. You should have one more of those. The bag of all the extra CPU cooler stuff. Okay. Yeah, to put all that in the resealable, or this one will fit.
I just thought these black things, you know,
The what?
these black things, these new
The
things.
clips, yes. It's kind of like a circlip, it's kind of like an automotive circlip, actually.
This was,
And I can't remember if they're coarse thread or fine thread, I always check anyway. So the case comes with at least one extra stand. So I like to put a screw in, double check, it's fine thread. So we're good there. Let's see, 3, 5, 6 total. Yeah, I wish they'd made this motherboard like just a hair longer. So that would hit those other motherboard screws. Is what it is. Guess I could try to get that set up here where it's like looking down into this a little bit more.
set it on the shelf, and your camera hanging off the edge.
Maybe. Alright, I'm gonna get it pretty centered and tighten down a little, and then if we have to reset for the video card, we will. But this one doesn't have too much slop in it, so I think we'll be okay.
Does that video card have 2 or 3 fans? Looks like 2.
I think it's only 2 on this one. I could be wrong. Alright, so motherboard is in. I'm gonna do power supply next, just so I don't have to get around this thing to plug the CPU power in. So we've got motherboard in, don't need this anymore. EVGA power supply, it's fully modular. Nope, semi-modular. Nothing wrong with that. We need the stuff that's permanent to it anyway. So, only motherboard power is built in. CPU power isn't. That's funny. Okay, so what all do we want and what way do we want to pull? So we're pulling from the bottom. So we're gonna fan down. We need SATA power for the fan distribution. One of those. We need CPU power, and we really need both because like the last one we did, it's got a 4-pin and an 8-pin. And then VGA, I don't know if this card takes power. I would think it does. Since it's a dual fan gigabyte. So I can't tell. Single 8-pin. So we do need a single VGA. I think they're all going to be double-ended though, so we'll just have to use one. Let's see. Yeah, they're all doubles, so we'll just use one and tie the rest back. Okay, so I'm going to pre-install all of this so I don't have to reach it through the case. So we've got VGA 1. The video card, and we got the dual CPU power, CPU 1 and 2. lastly, where's the SATA power? Thank you. This one we could do like yours where we split the 4 pins. Since we know for CPU 2, you can't actually utilize both. I do need to figure out which one's which though. I don't remember from the last one. So, let's try it out. Okay, that's the good 4 pin, so the other one can get tied. I have ties somewhere already. Right here. Questions,
No, you got ties already?
concerns? I save tying most things up till it's been fired up and running, but this will be hard to reach later. I've made that mistake enough times. Have you done any gaming on yours yet?
No. I didn't do
You had a
much
3-day
gaming this
weekend, man.
I didn't do too much gaming, but the time I did have, I didn't feel like
Hooking
logging
up the
and
new one.
switching,
What do you got?
I only have like an hour to play, so, or had.
Well, also keep in mind how much you have to download, because you're in Comcast residential, which means you only get 1.2 terabytes a month. So you may need to spread it out a little.
Well, the 2 main games that I play, I downloaded here on ours.
Oh, that's a good idea, because we're on business class, it won't restrict you.
I didn't know that, that's kinda cool, but.
Yeah, it's unlimited for business class, so we don't have to worry. Oh, let's take this extra hard drive caddy out, so that we get that extra space too.
I'll put it back in there.
No, like the whole thing, the whole
yeah.
assembly comes out.
Just
And
in
then, yep, that way we can just have more airspace, since no one's ever gonna be putting a 3.5 in here. I usually take these off too, the 2.5 carriers,
Mhm.
just because they're kind of in the way of cable management. So I'll just put it all back in the box. I do like having the cradle back in there though. So we'll keep all that with it. Alright, power supply is going in, fan down so that it can pull through the speaker.
There's a screw still in here.
I can use screws that came with the case or the ones that came with the power supply. I'll probably use the case screws if there's enough. So it should be coarse thread. Yep, just like that. Yes. Any of them that are a socket on the end are coarse thread. See how you could put a nut driver on it?
So this is the different one.
Yes, so that's not a nut driver. This one is. So you've got, oh, wrong side. Got to where a socket would go on there. Very nice. Alright, so the main goal was to have the CPU power early so that I could go ahead and get it connected before that big cooler's in the way. So we're going to send both of those up. Try to keep them flat. And that way they can plug in, but they don't turn over that way. Let's go the other way. There we go. Always a fun reach. So see, I always want it to go that way, but the clip is this way. So I have to think about it preferred to go that way. Let's see if we can get it in the shot. So you come in, click down, and flip them over, and go back in. This is the one time I hate that they're split, because it makes it harder. There you go. Alright, CPU power is good. Motherboard power, I think we know from experience where it needs to land. This doesn't
So
take
it's
long.
pinned out.
Yeah, so the pin's almost always on that side, so of course that's backwards. You get a twist. This is what I don't like this motherboard setup, is if I push, the whole board bends.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna try to get some fingers under the edge of the board so I can kind of squeeze it into place in hopes of not flexing that printed circuit board. All they had to do is make it this much longer and they wouldn't have the problem, so.
Maybe a quarter of an inch.
Kind of drives me nuts that they did that, but.
Oh, well.
Alright, I'm just gonna put the spaghetti back in and lay it down. So RAM and cooler are gonna be next. Guess let's go ahead and unbox the RAM. I think there is a film on these, but check for me.
Maybe take one out from that. But could be wrong.
You got 11 people watching, nobody's talking though. Any film on there?
I don't think so.
I think they might have done away with it, which I'm happy about. You used to have to peel film off of all these
Or it
RAM
might be
sticks.
on the RGB still, I just don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I will say with the DDR5, let me see if I can get it where y'all can see. With the DDR5, the notch, so one of these is one way, one is the other. The notch is still almost dead center. They're only off by like 1 pin each way. Oh, you can't see that. So they're only off by like 1 pin. So you really have to be careful to get them in here the right way. So with these, I'd like to line it up and just make sure that notch is landing where it needs to. So with the Corsair, the Vengeance label is on the outside, away from the CPU. So it says Vengeance from this way. You could probably, get close to getting it seated the wrong way with this DDR5. I really wish they'd move the notch to where it's just like all the way over here.
Yeah.
Because from a printed circuit board, purpose, I don't think it makes any difference to the functionality. It's so that it only goes in one way, and that notch has been moving towards center with every new DDR version that comes out, and that kind of scares me, so.
I should be doing the opposite.
Well, not even, just keeping it way not symmetrical, I think is really the answer. Okay, so we've got this tightened down, RAM's in, CPU power, motherboard power, our M2s without one heat spreader are installed. So in order to get running, we've got to get the CPU cooler installed, front panel connectors, and then video card, because this does not have integrated video. I go back and forth on this pre-done grease. I don't really feel like this does it justice, the little honeycomb there. So what we've been doing is just going ahead and taking that off and going with some good Arctic Silver, just because I'm sure the Noctua stuff is good, it's just not what I'm used to. And unfortunately, I don't always know that it's going to give me the coverage that I'm looking for. We also have the Arctic Silver Arctic Clean. So we have thermal paste remover and then surface purifier. So the thermal paste remover, I usually only do if it's like super dried on. You can see this is coming off real easy. Still might do some of the remover just to keep it from getting everywhere. So mostly there, so I'll use some of the surface cleaner as well. They come in cute little bottles. The label number 1 is the thermal remover, so we're gonna start with that one. I like to use shop towels because they don't dust too bad. I do like to tear them up though, just because that thermal grease travels a lot and ends up getting everywhere. So we're gonna just get that cleaned off. There we go. CPU's already clean because it's not had thermal paste on it. So we're going to use the surface purifier once we let that evaporate off of there. Number 2. So the blue top. This comes as a kit, it doesn't come in this cute little bag. This is an old gaming modular power supply bag from a very long time ago. Just keeps all our thermal paste stuff together. So I'm going to start on the CPU side. Just a little bit on there. Just get any oils from production or hands or anything off. I did put a glove on just to try to keep from tainting the surface. And I'm going to go back and do the same here. Alright, so we're in good shape. The thermal paste of choice in our shop is going to be the Arctic Silver 5. Lots of different schools of thought about application. These are kind of rectangular CPUs, which is odd. So rather than one centered dot alone, I'm going to do a center dot, and then I'm going to do a few corner dots as well. Just trying to not be excessive about it. Less is more. And you can always install the CPU cooler and then pull it right back off to see what kind of spread you've got. Do any moving around with the paste if you did not get the spread you're looking for, and then reinstall again. So I'm just going to get this to spring loaded or clean surface that I'm not going to touch. Start one side and then the other. I'm used to them that are 4 screws instead of 2, which I think is going to be a little easier to get an even distribution using. Alright, so now both sides of the cooler are on. So I'm just going to go back and forth, one side then the other a little bit. That did not bite and feel correct, so I'm going to try again. The downside of the sleeved springs is it kind of pulls funny, so it can cross thread very easily. Alright, both sides are down, checking the spacing to try and see if it's even. And I'm just going to pull the whole cooler again. To see how we did. It's a really good distribution of thermal paste there. None down in the socket, which is just how you want it. Still gonna do the back and forth method a little bit, just to try to get it even. Feels good. Everything seems to be lined up correctly. Sitting straight. Similar gap on both sides. So I think we're in great shape as far as the thermal paste. So now we can get the cooler fan installed. The Noctua clips on, you always want to go, flat side is out, and you always want to go front to back, at least on these Antec cases. So air's drawn in the front, exhaust the back, and then top is optional. You clip the top side first. Get the wire out of the way. So I like to get it kind of loose, fit, and then figure out the length on this cable so I can tie up the cable. Once I get an approximate length, pull the whole assembly back off. This is the length I need. So I'm going to double the cable over on itself as needed. And I can get a zip tie on there. Nice and tight where nothing can fall in. This also gives you the ability to go on and plug it in before mounting if you have space constraints. All right. Now these are spring-loaded brackets for the Noctua. Basically, they just pull up over the heatsink. I can't do it standing up though. There we go. The one thing I don't like about this design is you can be off by like just one fin on the heatsink, and that makes it not all line up properly and straight, which looks kind of funny. I think we're good to go now though. So now we're clipped on. Again, blowing this way because it's the flat side of the fan. So we're good there. The last things we need are video card and front panel I/O, as well as something to power the fans. Fans use a SATA power connector. As far as that I/O, you've got the USB 3, certainly not necessary to power it on, but it's got to be connected eventually. Alright, USB 3 is in. It's hard to not twist the cables in doing that one. Next is going to be front panel I/O and audio front panel, or AFP. The AFP connector is usually all the way back here. Where the power supply sits, it can barely fit between the case and inside. It never fails that it's upside down with the way the cable wants to sit. in all these cases. Audio front panel is good. So now we're down to just front panel connectors for power, hard drive LED, and reset if it's got it. Doesn't look like it does. Okay, so for this phase, we're gonna grab the manual. It says the connectors on the motherboard. I never really trust that I can read it correctly, and it's just so easy to look in the book. All right, so where it says panel in the ASUS book here, of course it's backwards. All right, so panel, power LED plus minus. LEDs are polarized, so you have to have them in the right order. Positive is on the left. I cannot get them connected because they're separated and don't need to be. Alright, hard drive LED also polarized, facing the other way label, just kind of weird. Just in case. And then power switch, which is not polarized. We'll just put it with the label going the same way as the one next to it. And again, doesn't really matter, you're just shorting two pins together. Alright, lastly, for fans, we got the fan power connector. And then there's a feedback connector to go to the motherboard too. We're gonna wait on that one. And a lot of this can just get tied up down here. I think this is kind of how we did on yours back, is just zigzagged in the bottom.
Yeah.
Since we got all this space from taking out that hard drive caddy. I get why there's 3 SATA connectors, because if you had spinning hard drives or something, or even 2.5s, you'd need more than one. But it seems like these days I only ever need one, and there's always 3.
Mm-hmm.
Which just gives me cable to have to deal with. There's worse things in life. But considering how often we do this. Okay, and then this is the motherboard connector for PWM, which is basically fan power management. So this is going to give feedback to the motherboard about the fan spinning, and then the ability to control it if it's truly a PWM fan. But it only has 3 of the 4 pins in the harness, and I can't remember, one of them's feedback, the other's control, and it's missing one of the 2. So we'll have to look at that. I think there's a fan header at the bottom.
Shield had like the things not going in the ports like how mine was.
What do you mean?
Like you know how mine had like, these are like in the middle. Mine were like over the ports.
This is your motherboard, dude.
I
So
know,
I mean, I
mine
don't
was
know.
a little different. Though.
I mean, they could have made the IO shield a little different. They're springy, so like it's meant to like maintain like ground or something to them, but I don't know. It's all very finicky, and
Yeah, it's like it's different every time.
well, I will say, I mean, through the life of a product, you know, the IO shield, I've seen change, so I would never say it can't change, and
Right.
some are better than others, some are cut better than others. It's all stamped, so
No,
they're not exactly the fanciest. This is for RGB, so we're gonna probably put that on the lower header as well. So I'm just gonna slide that in one of these lower spots so that hopefully we can reach it, and then we'll tie it up once we know how much slack we need. As far as the RGB, in my experience, these headers are real wonky. They don't grip very hard, so that's not the best feeling connection in the world, but it gets the job done. And then the fan, to talk back to the controller, typically we've got a fan at the bottom for a header. Not seeing one on this though. up all the way over here. So I don't think this is gonna fit between the power supply and there. We can try it. It's rather tight. Nope, doesn't want to fit, so I'm gonna plug the other end, and is it smaller? It is smaller. So maybe we can just feed it back through the case from the fan controller. Or I guess it's really more of like a distribution block is what I would call it. So, they ran the wire like under that printed circuit board on this fan distribution too, so I don't really understand that decision. Alright, so that's the smaller end that goes on the distribution block. With some luck it'll fit, it does. And then this can go on that system fan header. And we still have enough room to get it back where it belongs. Those connectors are very, very fragile though, so they always scare me a little. Okay, this doesn't need to be out here, so we'll tie it back. We already know we only have a single 8-pin for the video card, so I'm going to tie this cable flat. Since we know we don't need the second connector. I'll probably end up doing more than that, but that's a good start. We're going to get the or the expansion slot shield moved up, so we've got room. And we've got to remove 2 dummies. Alright. Seems like a different brand every time we do one. Gigabyte this time. Always one of just a few brands though, but EVGA is out of the game, right?
For GPUs, yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy because that's like all they did starting out, I'm pretty sure, is GPUs.
Well, they're not making any new ones moving forward. I'm sure you still buy some.
Yeah, have you seen what the prices
I was about
are
to
on
say,
them?
the prices
They're
have gone up though.
insane.
It's really obnoxious.
I mean, they were my go-to brand for a lot of the video cards we used to do. I think my old 1050 and 1060 are EVGA, but I don't think any of my newer cards are. One of mine is a gigabyte for sure. I think that 3080 is a gigabyte.
I think my 1060 was a MSI. I can't remember though.
All right, that one, no problem.
Maybe it's the new one.
My 1660 Super is a Zotac.
Sorry to hear that.
It works plenty fine.
Yep.
0 issues.
I mean, I think you can do worse than Zotac. I'd say EVGA and Asus and Gigabyte are all kind of the top dogs for me as far as video cards.
I don't know if I've seen an Asus card.
We've installed an Asus card before. So this is also a fun conundrum of which direction do we take the cable since it sits up here and the fans are down there. So I think I'm just going to go this way for now. I might change my mind later. It's not a very heavy card, so I don't have to worry about stress or anything. And I can probably flip all of this. But I don't know. It doesn't really look good no matter what I do with it. I may just tie it straight down.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see. We've also got that auxiliary exhaust fan came in a box like this.
Oh, no,
You're right. So this can go up here as well as a secondary exhaust fan.
for some reason I thought that was the reverse of like the what they have on the side.
Well,
in case you wanted it flat for whatever reason.
no, so I mean this one's exhaust, these 3 pull in, so to be able to have a little bit more
That's,
exhaust coming out, you can go up top. Think of, that's an AIO header, so this is the closest chassis fan connector. So in order to get it up there, we're then gonna have to route the wire down and around, so probably through here and back in here. So because of that, I'm gonna put the cable on that corner and go in this way. And then we should have four, yeah, those really aggressive, fan screws. And then this takes, I think, a couple of sizes of fan. Yeah, this is the 120 spot that you can do. Looks like a 140 would fit. So I'm just gonna get them started and then use the screwdriver.
I'm gonna put that stuff there. I guess I should have asked if you're done with this. But
Yeah, I'm done with all the thermal paste stuff. I installed the cooler and then pulled it back off, checked the spread of the grease, and then I put it back a second time. But this, because this is oblong, I think we talked about this when we did yours, but yours was a water cooler. I put a big dot, or regular size dot in the middle, maybe a little smaller than normal. And then I kind of did 4 dots, one at each corner, just about, I don't know, an 1/8 of an inch in from each corner in order to try to just get that spread. Because as a rule, they don't want to spread quite to the full rectangular size because these processors aren't square. That said, I've never really had a problem. It's just, you don't want to overdo it is the main thing. Kind of like with this, because this is pretty much a wood screw going into plastic. It's not pointed like a wood screw, but the threads are like a wood screw. But if you round it out, then it's never going to hold again. So that's in good. I'm going to have to cable manage this later, but we're going to come around and go to this chassis fan header here. So we're good to go. So exhaust, 3 intakes. Processor exhaust going the same direction. So I think we're good to fire it up. I do need to tie some of this up later, get it out of the way. And we'll kind of see what we can do with this GPU power.
can you go to this one? Or
Yeah, I'll probably try to go to this one, so just clean up a little bit. And how we pushed it a bunch. You give me a Memtest flash drive, please. Oh, and we'll need HDMI adapter too. Old monitors. Thank you. I won't put it in quite yet. I'll hit the BIOS first. Keyboard and mouse, of course. This does still have a PS2 connector, just in case. Alright, so start with power supply power. It's on. So far so good. All the fans are moving. GPU fans aren't, but I'm sure they're thermal controlled. Remember, it always takes just long enough that you don't feel like it's going to work and get a display. And it did a cute little shut down and start up second process here. We got post. All right, new CPU installed. Please enter setup. Always going to be the case on a new run. F1, get in the BIOS. Everything's working. CPU fan, chassis fan 1, chassis fan 3. So I might move this bottom one over one because that's probably chassis fan 2. sees the two Evo Plus drives,
No fan errors.
no fan errors, and yeah, I mean, it's only 500 RPM. Yours was like detecting like 2,000 on the water cooler, and it was still mad. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that's all about, but so far so good. Everything looks good. Gonna F10 to save. Reboot into Memtest. I like to have all the fans on, but run through a Memtest 4 pass. Once that goes through, everything passes. You've kind of settled in all your parts thermally, and you're kind of ready to go to finish the build. So hopefully it'll boot that drive, and we'll be up and running.
Did you save it to boot to the drive?
No, there's no other boot devices available, so it has no choice but to boot the flash drive,
Oh,
because we've not installed an OS on any of the other
I
drives.
see, yeah.
So only bootable device to be found, so it should just work.
Should.
There we go. Starting Memtest.
Caught up like mine did. Didn't look like it.
Let's hope it doesn't, because that was weird. It didn't get cut up. Yours just wanted to reseat the RAM for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but
I like the form factor on my car.
the card.
The card looks really
And the
nice.
funniest part is the card is exactly a regular ATX motherboard depth, but the motherboard isn't. So it hangs past the board like
Oh, is
that
it?
1/4 inch that they made the board too small. So yeah, I really don't understand that one. But
Well, imagine a free fan though. That'd be like-
Oh, well, yeah, it'd be up to here, but that's why modern cases have all this depth, you know, for,
These are good cases. I like
Good
these cases. They're-
I mean, for what they are very inexpensive and they are very solid.
Something I don't like about this case is there's a lip. Like it's too long on the top. Like look at the back side too.
Even how it like
Yeah,
overhangs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I'm
because
sure
this
with the-
tucks
I
under.
was gonna say with that it's probably flush.
You also gotta keep in mind, it hooks on these fronts
Mhm.
slots and then screws in. It's so much easier. The old ones that had the little slots all the way and the hooks,
There's a
it was so hard to get them to sit right. I'd always have to lay it down and like push down with my arms to
slide.
slide it.
Mhm.
So I just think these are way more foolproof at the end of the day. So reliability wise better. Here's our i7 sticker. I'm not gonna put it on anywhere. So that's really it as far as the 0 to working computer. From here we'll do cable management, we'll install Windows and get that activated, get updates done, and then we should be in good shape. But all in all, not too bad. How long are we at? Right over an hour 3 minutes, so pretty good. Probably would have been quicker had we not installed the
The
CPU
fan
fan
4
bracket three or four times, yeah. But new equipment. I do like that it doesn't like twist like a lot of them.
Mhm.
It is getting very warm, so we know our thermal paste is working. You want the heat sink to get warm. If it's not getting warm, then it's not pulling the heat out. Does see 20 active cores, which is cool. I think this is the 20 threads total, so 10 core, 4 efficient, and then 6 performance or whatever.
I like the color of that GPU as well. It's like a gray blue.
Yeah, I mean, all this is kind of drabby color. It's not all crazy bright white RGB. If I unplug the RGBs, it'd probably toggle though, wouldn't it? Oh, I might not have that plugged in.
I was like, that should be the front fans.
Yeah, and those front fans are RGB, none of the rest are.
Yeah.
I don't know if the GPU has RGB control built in or not. I don't
Mine
usually
just stays blue.
worry about those things, but 12 gig 3060, so shouldn't be bad. Cool. You could always add more fans here. I don't know why you would. They've got bracketry to bolt 3.5 inch drives on the back here. I don't know that anybody does that anymore. There's a lot of old stuff that's still lingering around. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.